Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just another year. This is not just another day. 20 to 25 is not just another year on the calendar. It's not a reset button. It's a rebirth. This is the year where distractions must die and decisions must live. The noise around you is only getting louder, but that noise doesn't define you. Your focus does. Every minute you spend doubting yourself, comparing yourself, or seeking validation is a minute stolen from the greatness you were born to unleash. The world is designed to pull your attention in 1,000 directions, but success is reserved for those who learn how to pull it back. You don't need more time, you need more intention. And that intention starts with a commitment to focus only on yourself in 2025. You see, far too many people live their lives as spectators. They scroll through timelines, watching other people's victories, studying someone else's highlight reel while forgetting their own game plan. But here's the truth. You will never create a future you're proud of by living in someone else's shadow. You were not created to compare. You were created to dominate in your lane. Focus means you stop looking left and right. It means your eyes are fixed forward. On your mission, your habits, your next move. When you focus on yourself, you give yourself permission to grow without judgment, without apology, and without delay. Everything you need is already inside you, but you've been distracted by what's outside, the opinions, the trends, the lies that say you're not enough until the world claps for you. That's the trap. Waiting for the world to approve your greatness before you express it. Focus on yourself, and you'll realize you were never supposed to wait. You were supposed to lead. You were supposed to rise while others hesitate. You were supposed to train in silence while the world slept, and then step out so prepared, so intentional, so fierce, that they could never ignore you again. This year, your priorities must become sacred. Your time is your treasure, and your energy is your engine. Stop giving both to people and places that don't multiply your purpose. You don't owe your presence to every party, every post, or every ping on your phone. You owe your presence to the work. The uncomfortable, unglamorous, unrecognized work that builds real foundations. Focus isn't glamorous, but it is powerful. The ones who master it are the ones who last. They build when no one's watching. They invest when no one's clapping. They sharpen themselves in silence so they can speak with authority when it counts. In 2025, distraction is your enemy, not because it's loud, but because it's subtle. It shows up in small compromises. One skipped routine, one lazy day, one more scroll. That's how momentum dies, not in a crash, but in a quiet surrender. You must become ruthless with your attention. If it doesn't feed your vision, it doesn't deserve your focus. This is not about selfishness. It's about stewardship. Stewarding your gift, your time, your calling like it matters, because it does. No one's coming to save you from inconsistency. That's your job now. There will be days this year when you feel invisible. Days when you question if the sacrifice is worth it. That's when the average person quits, but not you. Because you understand that pressure is a privilege. It's a sign you're being trusted with growth. You weren't built for comfort. You were built to carry weight and still walk tall. When you focus on yourself, you don't avoid struggle. You harness it. You use it as resistance training for your destiny. You don't fold under pressure, you form under it. The version of you that 2025 is calling for doesn't care about being liked, it cares about being aligned. Aligned with your goals, your values, your higher standard. Alignment produces power, and power requires protection. Protect your space, protect your mind, protect your peace. This is the year you don't explain your elevation, You embody it. You don't water yourself down to make others comfortable. You rise. And those who are meant to rise with you will catch up. When you focus only on yourself, you stop playing defense and start running your playbook. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. This is your time to get serious. Not loud, serious about your finances, your health, your habits, your mindset, your mission. The work you do on yourself in 2025 will echo for decades. Let others chase clout. Let others chase comfort. You chase clarity. You chase discipline. You chase the version of you that's been waiting to be unleashed since the beginning. You've been watching from the sidelines long enough. The truth is, you weren't built to be a spectator. You were built to be a force, a creator, a leader. But somewhere along the way, you allowed the opinions of others, the noise of the world, and the illusion of competition to make you believe that your value lies in how well you perform for an audience. And that's the lie. Because real transformation doesn't happen under a spotlight. It happens in silence, when no one is clapping and no one is watching. 2025 is the year to cut the applause and turn inward. The real work is not public, it's personal. This is the year you refuse to be distracted by the success of others. Not because you're bitter, but because you're better focused. You begin to understand that someone else's win is not your loss. Someone else's timing doesn't delay your own. You don't need their platform. You don't need their pace. What you need is a level of focus so deep that everything outside your purpose becomes blurry. You stop measuring your progress by how many people notice you, and you start measuring it by how much you're changing, evolving, and aligning. Growth doesn't happen when you're looking out. It happens when you look within. You'll begin to notice how much time you've wasted looking at people who are not responsible for your future, scrolling through lives that are curated and filtered while yours remains unbuilt and raw. And then the wake-up call comes. Comparison is a silent killer. It robs you of your own identity. It keeps you busy envying someone else's destination while ignoring your own journey. In 2025, you don't have time to live in someone else's story. You have a calling that demands your full attention. And when you start treating your life like it's urgent, things begin to change. There's a power in solitude that the distracted world can't understand. When you choose to focus on yourself, you make room for clarity. You start hearing your own thoughts. You start recognizing what's real and what's noise. You stop being swayed by trends and start building from truth. You realize that the people you admire didn't get there by chasing attention. They got there by mastering the basics behind closed doors. Their fruit came from deep roots, and deep roots are grown in the dark, not on stage. This year, you stop trying to look like success and start becoming it. When you focus only on yourself, you stop reacting emotionally to every little bump in the road. You begin to build emotional muscle. You develop restraint, patience, and long-term vision. You understand that your emotions don't run your day, your discipline does. You get up when you don't feel like it. You show up when you'd rather quit. You execute even when it's boring, because the new you is not ruled by mood, you're ruled by mission. The ability to regulate yourself is the most underrated form of power. And in 2025, it's your edge. This new level of focus requires letting go of needing to be understood, letting go of people who only love the old version of you, letting go of habits that have felt like comfort but are actually cages. Not everyone will make the journey with you, and that's okay. You're not shedding them to be cold, you're shedding them to be clear. Because the clearer you become about where you're going, the less tolerance you'll have for anything that's pulling you backward. Focus means sacrifice. And every sacrifice you make for your growth will return with interest. It won't always feel good. There will be moments of loneliness, discomfort, and self-doubt. But those are not signs to quit. They are signals that you're on the right path. Growth is uncomfortable because you're being stretched into someone new. Every time you choose focus over distraction, discipline over convenience, and progress over validation, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. That's how transformation works. It's not a one-time event. It's a daily decision. A repeated yes to your future and a firm no to your excuses. So this year, you live in your own lane. You honor your own pace. You build your own table. You go all in on yourself because no one else can carry your dream for you. Your potential doesn't need an audience. It needs action. It needs your full investment, your highest attention, your daily commitment. Focus is not about being perfect. It's about being planted, rooted in purpose, watered by discipline, and ready to grow regardless of who sees it. Everything you need to become who you're meant to be is already within you, but it's been buried under layers of distraction, approval seeking, and mental clutter that the world has taught you to normalize. In 2025, it's time to unlearn all of that. It's time to strip away what doesn't belong and return to the core of who you are. When you make the decision to focus only on yourself, you're not being selfish. You're being strategic. You're choosing to stop scattering your energy in 100 directions and instead direct it like a laser toward your future. Nothing grows when it's constantly being pulled apart, and that includes you. When you give your energy to everything, you give your power to nothing. Your energy is sacred. Your time is not infinite. You don't get more hours in the day because you're ambitious. You get the same 20 for everyone else does. What makes the difference is what you do with it. Are you spending your hours reacting to everything around you? Or are you using them to build, to refine, to elevate? Focusing on yourself means you stop being a prisoner of urgency and start becoming a master of priorities. Not everything is urgent. Not every ping deserves a response. Not every person deserves a piece of your time. This is the year to stop looking for answers in people who don't even understand your questions. Nobody else has your blueprint. Nobody else sees your full vision. And yet, so many waste years trying to convince others to validate a dream that wasn't given to them. That's not alignment. That's insecurity in disguise. When you truly focus on yourself, you stop needing external validation to feel like you're on the right path. Your actions become the evidence. Your growth becomes the proof. You let your consistency speak louder than your explanations ever could. To build something great, you need peace. And peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from a clear, focused mind. You create that peace by removing what doesn't align. The drama, the distractions, the endless mental tabs open in your head that drain your clarity. You create peace by simplifying, by getting brutally honest with yourself about what's been stealing your momentum. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is not rest, it's restraint. Saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. Saying no to chaos so you can say yes to peace. Saying no to old patterns so you can say yes to a new life. Focusing on yourself also means doing the boring things consistently. The habits that don't look flashy but change your trajectory over time. It means mastering your mornings instead of snoozing through them. It means choosing discipline over dopamine. It means showing up for yourself when no one's watching, no one's cheering, and no one's clapping. Those quiet choices are the ones that rewrite your story. That's the part no one talks about. Real growth happens in the unseen, uncelebrated, repetitive daily decisions that compound into greatness. There is a version of you that is locked behind your current excuses. A more focused, more disciplined, more powerful version. But you will never meet that person if you keep giving energy to things that drain you. Every time you choose focus over chaos, you're taking a step closer. Every time you choose to work on yourself, instead of watching someone else's life, you're getting sharper. Every time you shut out the noise and double down on your goals, you're breaking through layers of who you were and stepping into who you were meant to be. The distractions won't stop just because you want to grow. In fact, the closer you get to your next level, the more resistance you'll face. That's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're moving in the right direction. The world will tempt you with shortcuts, with shiny options, with noise dressed up as opportunity, but you'll know better because focus gives you discernment. You'll learn to say, this isn't for me, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. That's the power of knowing who you are and where you're going. You stop settling for what only looks good, and you start choosing what truly serves your purpose. When you finally understand that your success is tied to your ability to stay focused, you start moving differently. You stop explaining your vision to people who don't have the capacity to see it. You stop getting distracted by the pace of others and start mastering your own rhythm. You stop asking for permission and start executing with precision. This is not about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving yourself right, about showing up for the life you know deep down you were made for. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You've spent too much of your life watching other people win, and it's time to stop. Not because they don't deserve it, but because you do. Because the truth is, there's a version of you that's been waiting far too long for permission to rise. A version of you that's been hidden under layers of doubt, distraction, and delayed decisions. This is the year to stop observing and start becoming. Every time you celebrate someone else's breakthrough while quietly ignoring your own potential, you shrink a little more. Not out of jealousy, but out of neglect. You were never meant to simply applaud others from the sidelines. You were meant to build, to execute, and to arrive. There is a dangerous comfort in being a bystander. It requires no risk, no exposure. You get to cheer, critique, admire, even envy, all without putting your own name on the line. But comfort is a thief. It robs you of progress and convinces you that waiting is wisdom when it's really fear in disguise. Watching other people win becomes a distraction when it starts delaying your own work. And too often, that's what it becomes, not inspiration, but procrastination. You convince yourself that you need to watch a few more success stories, read one more strategy, wait for better timing, or gain more clarity. But clarity comes from motion, not from observation. You can't grow while constantly measuring your pace against someone else's. Their story isn't your standard. Their timeline isn't your target. The second you start running someone else's race, you abandon your own path. And the price for that kind of detour is costly. It costs you time, energy, confidence, and alignment. You begin doubting your own steps because they don't look like the ones you've been watching. You forget that your assignment was never supposed to look like theirs. You were created with something specific in mind, a message, a mission, a model of living that can't be copied or compared. When you focus only on yourself, You create space for your original design to emerge. You get clear on what success actually means for you, not what it looks like in someone else's highlight reel. You stop chasing relevance and start chasing purpose. You stop mimicking noise and start creating value, because focus sharpens vision and vision fuels impact. And the more intentional you become about your own progress, the less you'll care about external approval. You won't need to broadcast your every move when you're busy building something that lasts. Your focus becomes your filter. If it doesn't serve the mission, it doesn't make the cut. Focusing on yourself also means getting honest with yourself. Brutally honest. It means calling yourself out when you've been slacking. It means holding yourself accountable instead of shifting blame. No more waiting on motivation. No more looking for someone to pull you up. This is your season to become your own rescue team, to take responsibility for your discipline, your mindset, your environment. Every excuse you've leaned on in the past is now an obstacle that must be removed. Not because you have to, but because your future deserves it. And the only way to meet that future is to grow into it. You begin to understand that focus is not just about hustle. It's about alignment. It's about making sure your daily actions match your ultimate goals. It's about tracking your time, guarding your energy, and protecting your peace like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. You can't create anything lasting from a place of burnout or chaos. You can't build a legacy if you're constantly distracted by things that don't matter. The world doesn't need a busier version of you. It needs a more focused one. One who knows exactly what to say yes to and what to ignore without apology. There is strength in not reacting. Strength in walking your own path quietly while everyone else is performing for attention. Focusing on yourself means mastering the art of detachment, letting go of the need to prove, impress, or outperform. You start doing things because they're right, not because they're recognized. And in that place, your growth becomes deeper. Your identity becomes stronger. You move from chasing to attracting, from begging to building, from watching to walking in your own power. It's not about being seen. It's about being solid. When you step fully into that mindset, everything changes. Your priorities shift. Your habits sharpen. Your conversations become more intentional. You stop being available for mediocrity. You stop explaining your dreams to people who lack the capacity to understand them. You start speaking differently, moving differently, thinking differently. Not to impress anyone, but to align with who you know you're meant to be. Focus is a decision, and every decision you make in that direction becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. Most people spend their lives in reaction mode, constantly adjusting themselves to fit what's happening around them. They respond to distractions, to opinions, to fear, and to failure as if those things are the architects of their destiny. But what if 2025 became the year you finally turned the mirror toward yourself and decided to stop living on defense? What if this became the year you stopped managing everyone else's expectations and started mastering your own focus? There is a version of you on the other side of distraction that you've never met, stronger, wiser, more grounded, more fulfilled, but you can't access that version if you keep getting pulled into things that are not your assignment. There's something powerful that happens when you make the decision to focus solely on yourself. You begin to see your own patterns with clarity. You recognize where you've been procrastinating and why. You see how you've allowed people, noise, and comparison to hijack your energy. You realize you've been leaking potential one distraction at a time. And that realization stings, not because you're a failure, but because deep down, you've always known you're capable of more. Focus isn't about obsessing over success. It's about alignment. It's about narrowing your attention until your goals are no longer optional, they're inevitable. You start to treat your life with the seriousness it deserves. You stop living like your time is unlimited. You stop thinking you have years to get started, because time doesn't wait for clarity. Time doesn't pause for indecision. The people who win are not the most talented. They're the most focused. They've learned to quiet the noise and discipline their attention. They're not perfect, but they're present. And that presence becomes their power. When you're focused, you begin to see opportunity where others see distraction. You start building when others are still scrolling. You move with purpose while the rest stay busy without making progress. In 2025, your future requires your full participation. It demands that you stop outsourcing responsibility for your growth. No mentor, no partner, no strategy can do the work you keep avoiding. This is the year you stop chasing the next best thing and start committing to the process. Because what you build in private determines what you can sustain in public. You don't need a new plan. You need deeper discipline. You don't need a louder voice. You need clearer vision. And that vision only sharpens when you are still long enough to see what truly matters. Focusing on yourself is not a rejection of others. It's the foundation of leadership. As you pull your attention inward, you begin to take inventory of your habits, not the glamorous, visible ones, the small daily choices that compound quietly. How you wake up, how you speak to yourself, how you fuel your body, how you guard your mind. These things matter more than any breakthrough moment, because success is rarely a moment. It's a momentum. It's the result of invisible disciplines practiced consistently over time. And when you focus on yourself, you gain the capacity to master those disciplines. You become less reactive and more intentional, less emotional, more strategic. You stop chasing intensity and start embracing consistency. And you will lose some things along the way. You'll lose people who were attached to your former version. You'll lose the false comfort of blending in. You'll lose the easy dopamine hits of distraction. But in exchange, you'll gain peace. You'll gain direction. You'll gain depth. You'll begin to feel the ground beneath your feet again. You'll begin to live from the inside out rather than from the outside in. You'll stop being tossed around by trends, gossip, and chaos. You'll become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because your focus gets stronger. The storms won't stop, but you'll stop being swept away by them. You'll stop asking for permission to move forward. You'll stop waiting for everything to be perfect before you begin. You'll stop shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. Because when you focus on yourself, you get clear about your worth. You no longer settle for what is simply available. You pursue what is intentional. You don't wait for validation. You move from conviction. And when that becomes your standard, you stop compromising. You stop negotiating your goals with your fears. You show up differently, with posture, with presence, with power. Not because of arrogance, but because of clarity. Focusing on yourself teaches you that success isn't found in more noise. It's found in more depth. You don't need to be everywhere, doing everything, impressing everyone. You need to be aligned, consistent, and grounded. And that happens when you learn to say no more often than you say yes. When you stop performing and start preparing. When you stop broadcasting and start building. Your future will not be created in chaos. It will be created in clarity, in solitude, in discipline. And the moment you truly commit to focusing on yourself, you start to realize you never needed more approval. You just needed more alignment. There is a powerful truth that many overlook. The greatest work you will ever do is the work you do on yourself. For too long, you may have been caught up in the external, trying to impress others, living according to someone else's expectations, or chasing after fleeting validation. But when you make the conscious decision to focus only on yourself, everything changes. Suddenly, your energy is no longer scattered, your mind is no longer cluttered, and your vision is no longer blurred by comparison. This focus is not selfish, it is the essential foundation upon which all true success is built. When you center your attention on your own growth, you begin to reclaim the time and mental space that distractions have stolen from you. You start recognizing the patterns that have held you back, the moments when you allowed fear or doubt to dictate your actions, the times you gave away your power by seeking approval from those who don't understand your journey. Instead of reacting to the chaos around you, you begin to respond from a place of calm and clarity. This shift is transformative because it empowers you to take control of your own narrative and rewrite your story on your terms. The process of focusing on yourself requires intentionality. It means setting clear boundaries that protect your energy and prioritizing the activities that move you closer to your goals. You will need to say no more often to distractions, to unproductive relationships, and to habits that no longer serve your highest purpose. This is not about cutting people off out of pride or fear, but about making space for the person you are becoming. When you cultivate that kind of focus, your progress accelerates because you're no longer pulled in conflicting directions. As you deepen your focus, you begin to cultivate resilience, the ability to stay committed to your path despite setbacks, criticism, or moments of doubt is a skill developed through practice and discipline. You learn that growth is not linear and that discomfort is often the signal that you're expanding beyond old limitations. This resilience is fueled by the confidence that comes from knowing you are working toward something meaningful rather than chasing superficial gains. It's a quiet, steady strength that grows as you continue to invest in yourself day by day. Focusing on yourself also means learning to listen to your intuition, to your needs, and to your true desires. In a world full of noise, clarity is a rare and valuable asset. When you cultivate the habit of tuning inward, you gain access to a wellspring of wisdom that guides your decisions with precision. This inner guidance helps you distinguish between distractions disguised as opportunities and genuine steps forward. It allows you to prioritize actions that align with your core values and long-term vision, ensuring that your efforts are both efficient and effective. The journey of self-focus will reveal truths that are not always comfortable. You may encounter parts of yourself that need healing or habits that require change. This honest self-assessment is not a judgment, but an invitation to growth. By facing these realities head on, you build authenticity and integrity within yourself. You become a person who doesn't just talk about change, but lives it, who embraces vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. This transformation creates a foundation of trust with yourself, which is essential for sustained success. As your focus sharpens, you begin to attract opportunities, relationships, and experiences that resonate with your evolved self. You stop chasing external validation because your sense of worth is rooted internally. This shift impacts not only your productivity, but your peace of mind. You experience less anxiety about comparison or competition because you're no longer measuring your progress against others. Instead, You measure it against your own potential and the consistent effort you put into becoming the best version of yourself. Ultimately, focusing on yourself is a radical act of self-love and responsibility. It means owning your dreams, your failures, and your growth with equal commitment. It means giving yourself permission to prioritize your needs without guilt and to cultivate a life that reflects your true purpose. This kind of focus transforms not just what you accomplish, but who you become in the process. It sets in motion a powerful cycle of growth that fuels every area of your life, creating a legacy far beyond momentary success.